learning how to program in EV3. Once again, my name's Afaq, and
I am Khalid, and if you guys have any questions, you can reach us at centerfork12stem@gmail.com. So this week we're going to be working on sensors. We're going to go over some of the loops that we did last week, and we're also going to build a different robot. So for the past few weeks, what we were doing is we were kind of Frankensteining our robot. We had an EV3 brick, which is the one that you see here, and we were building our robot with NXT components. We actually just got an EV3. Yeah, we got an EV3 kit set. So we have some of the EV3 components. We have our own EV3 kit. We were actually borrowing it from one of the other departments at our school. So we decided to build a new robot called the Harvester robot. So me and Afaq and I are going to run through the construction of this robot. We're going to walk you guys through it. And then after that, we're going to show you guys some of the sensors that we didn't go over last week. And there was one thing that I wasn't able to figure out last week that I was able to figure out that I would like to share with you. So without further ado,
start. Real quick though, the reason we're not using the 5-minute bot the reason we're not using the 5-minute bot this week, excuse me, is because, well, I'm gonna jump the gun and let them know. We're gonna use this brand new sensor that we haven't talked about last week with this little eye thing. It kind of looks like Wally.
It does kind of look like Wally. Maybe that's where they got the design from.
Maybe. This is called an ultrasonic sensor. So I guess it works. Yeah, I guess it is like Wally because it's like eyes. Basically, It emits a sound and then it catches the sound back and it kind of tells it the distance. I know that's like a rough explanation of it, but it'll be a lot more.
We'll delve more into it.
Yeah.
But basically, the mounting mechanism for this works better with the Harvester bot rather than the 5-minute bot that we were working with last week. And this is kind of one of the things that you guys are going to encounter when you're building your robots for your FLL competitions, that some builds and some designs are just going to accommodate the mounting of sensors better than others. So, like I said, without further ado, let's get this guy built. Okay. So, we have our motors, which are pretty much the same as the motors that we were using for the NXT 5-minute bot. We have these pieces over here that are a little bit different. So, these square-looking guys over here, we're going to have these on the side if you can see them. And we're going to have a number of pegs. We're going to tell you the number of pegs that you need to use throughout the construction and building of this robot. So, Fak, you want to take the point on this?
Yeah. Well, I did start building this, so for once, I'm going to be teaching him. So, we're going to start off with just 2 motors, right, Cleve?
Yes, sir.
And we take let's find out. The length of this axle is, again, to find out the length of the axles, we hold them up against the circles. And this one, Cleve, if you will.
Oh, I can't count when you drop it, bro.
Cleve, if you will.
Yes, sir. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Or is that 7 or?
I'm gonna call it 7.
All right, 7 it is.
7, 8. It's 8. The 8th length axle. I'm gonna take 2 of those. I'm gonna stick them into our wheels. Now the wheels in the kit come without the rubber part on, but I'm assuming everyone at home could figure out how to attach the rubber.
Yes, but just so you know, this is how they look. This is how the tire looks. Rubber.
Tire. Well, it isn't rubber.
You know, in England they call erasers rubbers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were real confused about that. Had a few foreign exchange students last year.
Now, we're just gonna take our 7 or 8 length axle and stick it into the tire, right into the tire where the square part is.
Okay, so the long part is on the deeper part of the tire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right through the middle, and then we're gonna take a bushing.
Okay.
And attach it right into it.
Onto the inside of the tire. Very good.
And now, if I'm looking at the motor, I'm going to put it on the outside.
Okay, what do you mean by the outside of that?
Well,
I'm
putting it on the left.
Motor? Okay, I put it on the right.
Right, there you go.
All right.
You can't have 2 wheels on the same side.
Yes, sir.
And that is all we will do with this for now. Then, I believe we are going to take our square
attachment.
The ones that you spoke about, yeah. And I guess, what is this? 3. It has 4 holes by 3 holes. So,
and there's 3 holes on the other face. There's pretty much nothing like them in the kit. Can we get these on the screen? Are these on the screen? Can the viewers see them?
I can't zoom, but yeah, you can see them.
Very good. As long as they can see what we're talking about.
So we're gonna take 2. We're gonna take 1 of them. So we only 2. I'm just gonna stick 2 pegs on either side. Let's see this. So this is going to be 2 pegs on either side, and this will actually hold our 2 motors together.
Oh, that's kind of cool. It's more stable than it was before.
Well, because now I'm making it.
Yeah, of course, it's you.
Anyway, now we're gonna, again, last time I believe we always put
a 15 connector. This time we're going to be
connector,
using.
15, but to hold it so it doesn't even more stable,
It
right?
gives it more rigidity.
So this time we're going to use an 11 connector.
Mhm.
Stick in the pegs like that.
Yes,
And
sir.
stick them in. And this is
Of course,
be,
it's so easy. Look at that.
you know, it always looks easier, but Legos are really.
It's not the Legos. It's you.
And now it's a pretty solid robot
Of course, because of you, right?
because of me.
Yeah, because of you.
Anyway, now we're going to take one of. These look like H's, I guess, right?
I would call it an H connector. It has
An H
four
connector.
pegs if you're going to count the ones on each side. One going through the center if you look at it like this, and two if you look at it like that.
So we're going to take one of those and attach them right onto the top of the square piece, farther away from the wheels, from that thing we just connected it with, right?
All right, all right. So it's closer to the connector end on the robots.
Right.
On the motors.
And now we're going to flip the robot so that everything we just built is on the bottom.
Okay.
And we're going to take these L pieces, these white L pieces,
Okay.
and 4 connectors.
Okay.
So I have 2, you have 2.
Oh, okay. So it's 4
2
in total.
each.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to put them right onto
The short legs?
the short leg. No, the long legs.
Okay. So we're
Don't
putting them
jump
on.
the gun.
Are we putting them on the extreme ends of the long ends?
No. See, like I said, jumping the gun, Cleve.
You're not
Patience is
teaching
a
me.
virtue. Patience is a virtue. So you put on the first one, and then you put on the third one.
Okay.
See that?
Patience is a virtue.
And then when you see the robot on top of where the phone wire things,
Yeah.
cable's going, right on top of that, you can fit the L's in just like that.
Short legs back to back.
Yes.
I think I broke it. No, I'm just kidding.
You just got this, Cleve. This is why you can't have nice things. Now,
That was a lot harder than it looks.
yeah, I told you.
You don't make it look easy.
Now, we're gonna put this aside, build that little leg base area.
And then we're gonna attack our brick. I'm
No.
guessing.
Jumping the gun again. Now we're gonna find a way how to connect sensors.
Of course.
Now we have this hook piece, I guess, Captain Hook piece, and it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 circles on the one side and 2 circles on the other, along with on the extreme ends, the Phillips head screwdriver looking thing.
You mean the axle connector?
The
Yeah,
axle
the
connector.
Phillips head looking connector
Now
thing.
I want this facing me, so it's gonna be like this. The 6 is, if I'm putting it down in front of me, I have the 6 holes on the left and the 2 holes on the right.
Okay.
And now I'm gonna stick in. Now we're gonna have. I believe we went over this the first week. It was half axle, half connector, right? These blue half axle, half connectors.
In our EV3 kit, these are actually blue. So this is a new kit. We haven't mixed
Still
up our
blue.
Lego pieces with other
Still blue.
pieces, so we can vouch that these are actually blue in the EV3 kit.
So now I'm gonna take this one and stick it. So when you look at the 6 and the 2, it's separated by this long,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, oblong circle. So I'm gonna put the blue piece right on
maybe
the farthest,
an oval.
closest to the oval on the 6th end, and right next to it, I'm gonna stick in a connector.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Now I'm gonna flip it,
Okay.
and I'm gonna do the same thing, except this time I'm gonna have my my axle
Mhm.
actually go into
Yes.
the axle piece,
Okay.
not into the circle. So now my axle's in. So I have an axle sticking out, a connector sticking out, and on the flip side, an connector sticking out with the
Mhm.
axle stuck in.
Okay.
If you guys aren't following along at home, please don't feel free to ask us questions. We can slow down and go back if you would like. And then I'm just gonna stick another connector right next to it. And now on the ups, and then actually two connectors next to it. So far I have 3, 2, and now this is where it gets a little confusing. I'm gonna take the half axle connector, but I'm gonna leave the axle side up.
Okay.
So instead of on the far end putting it in the axle piece, I'm gonna stick the connector into the circle piece.
Oh, I
See that? And then right next to it, I'm gonna put another connector. So now I have 5 pieces sticking up on one side and 2 pieces on the other side.
Cool. So how are we gonna mount our sensors to this?
Well, I'm gonna be holding it. I'm gonna hold it exactly like I'm holding right now, with the 2 pieces holding up and the 2 pieces holding down. Can I help? Sure. I'll hold this one. Thanks. He wants to do something. So now if I take my ultrasonic sensor, if we look on the bottom, there's 3 pieces: a connector, axle connector, and a regular connector.
Okay, don't mess this up.
So the 2 pieces that are on top,
Hmm.
I'm gonna connect it to my ultrasonic sensor cord.
Sorry now.
How am I gonna do that?
You
Come on, take a guess. The blue half axle piece we have sticking up, and the connector piece here, we're gonna stick that right in there, like so.
just like so, right?
Well, it takes a little thing.
Of course it takes a little. Take your time, please. We're only on the viewers' time.
So it goes in just like that, okay?
Okay.
And now
So simple.
the light sensor we spoke about last week. I hope everyone remembers the light sensor. Are we going to be doing something with this today?
We are going to be playing with the light sensor, and if you recall the one from last week, this one is a little bit different. It actually has two, I would say, eyes on the front of it, and we will get to that.
So now, again, on the bottom, it also has 3 holes: connector, axle, connector. And look at that, we have connector, axle sticking out, and nothing. But we only need 2. So we're going to connect that right in there like that with the eyes of the light sensor, as we call them, facing down.
If you were to hold it like that.
So this is how it's going to connect onto our robot. So again, we have the eyes with the ultrasonic sensor. Like, kind of makes sense, right? I said it's like eyes, so of course eyes would be up. So I can't wait to see what that's going to get us into. And now
we're going to play with the brick.
We do play with the brick.
All right.
Look at that. You're not jumping the gun. So the brick, the EV3 brick. We went over this last week.
The brick.
We have 2 more squares.
Okay.
Now first, I'm going to take 2 axles, and on the letter sides, on the sides of the, no, I lied. On the sides of the numbers, I will stick 1 peg in.
Okay.
And 2 peg in. And I will connect this square piece standing up. So like that. Onto the number side.
Okay.
So it's going to be standing up like that. And now,
look, it's a square playing with squares. What?
I'm sorry. and now, if you take another H piece and stick it onto the other side of the EV3, we're going to take our square piece or rectangle piece, and where is it? Play it down like this, I believe. So now we have it kind of coolly looking. It is kind of cool looking. Now,
not until it works, it's not.
It's gonna work, of course. So now we have. Now, last time we used a wheel in the front of our 5-minute bot, if I'm not mistaken. But this time we're gonna use something cool, a ball bearing. You can just.
I'd like to show it to them.
So the ball bearing doesn't come in its holder. The ball bearing comes as this little silver ball, and then you gotta look in the packet for its little holder piece. So you just stick the holder in just like that.
It has to click.
It has to click. And now, if we have one last connector. We're going to take that connector and connect it right into the bottom of it. So now it's kind of like
a cup or a bell, yeah.
So I have my little connector piece sticking out, ball bearing up, and I'm going to take that into the vertically standing square piece and just stick that right in there, right? So now we have that. And then on the other side, and then I'm going to take an H piece and stick it onto the bottom of the bell or the ball bearing. So if everyone follows sitting at home, it's pretty simple so far, not too hard. Now we're just going to put everything together. Now, if we remember, we have the H piece on the wheel sticking down, and we have the L pieces sticking up on this side. How do you think we're going to connect this, Cleve?
I think we're just going to
plop it right on.
Down, yeah.
So the square piece on the EV3 that is laying down, we're going to take the H connector that's connected to the wheels and connect it right into there. And at the same time, the H piece that we had connected from the ball bearings is going to go right into the vertical L pieces. Well, look at that.
And it's kind of really cool because the robot has a little bit of
a bounce
in its step, and the ball bearing that we placed in the front kind of affords it the ability.
Well, that's the back, technically.
To turn on a dime. Well, whatever it is that you'd like to call it. And now we've, I'm guessing you're going to want to mount the sensors back?
I mean, that is ideally what I want to do, right?
Ideally, yeah.
So, again, very simple. So now, if you're looking at the EV3 with the screen side facing us, you see the rectangles. The rectangle piece, the top rectangle piece, still has 3 empty holes.
Yes.
Right above the left wheel. And we have 3 pegs. Look at that.
Oh, God.
We're just going to stick those pegs right into there.
Yes.
And now our robot is complete. The harvester.
You're wrong because you didn't connect them to anything.
Now we're going to. Now, Cleve, will you please do the honors of connecting everything for us?
So generally, sensors are connected. Not generally, always the sensors are connected into the number parts. So I'm going to connect my ultrasonic sensor.
No. Yes, motors are connected to the letters.
Yeah, the motors are connected to the letters, and the sensors are connected to the numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to connect the Wally eyes to sensor port number 1, and I'm going to use the shorter cables for that. Generally, I like to use short cables because longer cables tend to get tangled into stuff. So the ultrasonic sensor is plugged into port number 1, and the light and color sensor, which is the one that has, I don't know, lenses that kind of look like it, into port number 2.
Now you want to be very careful with this because you don't want to block in front of the ultrasonic sensor, or else it'll read.
You can always just kind of tuck it in. You don't want to get it caught in the wheels. And then let's plug in the tires into the customary A and D ports, the motors. So There you are. Hold on.
British accent.
You don't have a British accent.
With the one.
I'm almost there. I'm good.
You're making my beautiful bot so ugly. Look at that.
You're like a
Wires
creator.
everywhere.
Look at the pot calling the kettle black. You're ugly.
You're messing up. Look at this. Now you have going Xing all over the thing. See, isn't that so simple? It's not as hard as he's making it seem, ladies and gentlemen. He's just a little gifted.
Yes.
Gifted and talented.
Yeah. It's the wires, I swear.
Yeah, it's the wires.
It is. It is.
And that is now it's done. So we can move and so now while I set up the screen, why don't you tell them a little bit about the ultrasonic sensor and how it exactly works?
So if any of you have ever been to the doctor with your moms, if they were pregnant with a little brother or sister of yours, the doctor does an ultrasonic sound exam on the baby. And the way it works is it's just a really loud speaker, and it's so loud that you can't hear it. Generally, there is a range of frequencies that the human ear can detect, and above 20,000 hertz, we can't hear it. But microphones and dogs can still pick up sound like that. Now, if you guys know anything about the way bats can see at night using echolocation, is that they emit really loud sounds, and the sounds will bounce off of a surface and come back to them. And based upon how long the sound takes to bounce back to the bat and how the sound sounds when it comes back to the bat can tell how everything looks on the other side. So this is the same exact way that the ultrasound works at the doctor's office. They call it a sonogram, and it's the same way that the ultrasonic sensor works on the EV3 bot. The sensor over here, if I'm not mistaken, is emitting sound with one of these eyes over here, and with the other eyes, it's listening. So even though it does look like eyes, it's more of a mouth and an ear kind of setup. So it's emitting a sound with one of the openings, and it's getting a sound back. And based upon how long it takes for the sound to get back and the pitch and the frequency of the sound when it gets back, the robot can actually detect how far or close it is to something. So when playing around with the ultrasonic sensor, one of the really useful things one can do is program the robot to go until it is a certain distance from a wall or from an obstacle. This is one of those things that can be really useful during the FLL competition. Now, the sensor that we have over here, which is the color and light sensor, we spoke about this briefly last week, measures intensity. So it measures how bright something is, and we gave you guys a bit of a run through on that. And it measures brightness in increments, or sorry, in values from 1 to 100, and it also measures colors from 1 to 7. So if you kind of look at it and you consider it, one of the things that these two sensors are, actually all of the sensors that the EV3 robots come with, is the fact that they convert their inputs into numbers, into numerical values. So based upon the distance that the ultrasound sensor is from an obstacle or from a wall or from something blocking it, it'll output a number. The light and color sensor will take in the color or the brightness, and it will output a number. And this is really useful because, as I'm going to show you once we get the computer up and running, is what you can do is you can calibrate your robot. And what it means to calibrate your robot is to adjust it to a particular value or setting that you'd like it to be at. So for instance, if you'd like your robot, if let's say my hand is an obstacle and you'd like your robot to go until maybe it's 2 inches away from the hand, you just figure out what value your sensor will output when it's that distance from my hand. And once you know that distance, you can go ahead and program your robot to act in that fashion. Or if you want your robot to follow a line of a particular color, you can calibrate your robot to read what value that color is, and then you can put that value into your program so that your robot does that. I realize that we are it's a difficult notion and a concept to explain, so if you guys do have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call, ask us questions. We're here, we'd love to answer them, and the email is center4k12stemeducation@gmail.com. So do we have the screen share up and running?
Not quite yet. I'm trying to figure out why effects not popping up on our user list.
Let's see, well, it says that I'm connected, but I'm waiting for people to join the video call.
So as we noodle around with that,
There's another type of motor that we want to talk about.
Give you guys
that we
just-
won't get to today.
We're not going to get to the rotating motor now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we can do while we try to get the video call up and running is we can I try to give you guys as quick of a run through loops as possible. So we did an example last week of a fat going to the store and looking to get milk, and we drew a parallel between the way these robots think and the way that a fat would have functioned or operated had we gone to the store looking for milk. Is that robots and computers, all of the things that are out there, are running through loops at all times to satisfy a condition. So one of the things that you should keep in mind is that when you run your loops, you can run them infinitely, which is called an infinite loop, or you can run your loops to do something until a particular value is met. So kind of bringing it back to what I was saying earlier about our sensors outputting a numerical value, let's say, for instance, when my hand is this far away from the ultrasonic sensor, the robot and the ultrasonic sensor picks up a reading of, I don't know, 23. I don't know what the units on that exactly are, but it's basically giving me a value of 23. I can run a loop to keep the robot's wheels running until the value of 23 is met. Once the robot hits a value of 23, it will stop. The same thing with your color or brightness sensor. You can say as long as the robot is reading a value of 7, which I believe is white, or 0, which is black, keep the motor running forward. Once it stops, once it ceases to read a value of 0 or 1 or whatever color it is that you wanted the color sensor to read, the robot will stop doing whatever it was doing. So this is basically kind of the basic premise of loops, and it's I think it's a really cool way to tie in these things, sensors, motors, steering, into the loops and the switches that we kind of talked about last week. Our goal is to give you guys a comprehensive understanding of what's going on with the robots and the programs and the sensors so that you can go off and build on them. How's that going, Afak?
Just trying to get it going.
Technical difficulties are a real thing.
You did accept our invitation, right?
Yeah.
Technical difficulties do happen in the real world, ladies and gentlemen. We do apologize for this. I remember actually when we were in high school, we used to play around with these robots, and we used to have these competitions in our class, or little missions that we used to have to do. Our teacher built this board out of wood, and he colored it in, and we used to have to traverse it. He actually went off to become a European rock star. Remember Mr. O'Reilly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have his own band.
He was the only teacher, I think, in our high school. We went to high school together. He was one of the only teachers at our high school who had an engineering degree, and he taught AutoCAD, which is a drafting program, and he taught the robotics course. And he decided that he wanted to be a rock star, so he went off and did that.
You're good to go.
Almost.
But
we just gotta put on some
anyway, we used to have these little programs that we would run, and one of the real cool things that I realized is that the touch sensor is not only a sensor, but it's also a button. Well,
Shall we go to our screen?
Yep.
a little
Now that all that's done.
to get back to the main point.
So again, connecting the EV3 through the cable given, of course, can't use the program wirelessly yet. Turning on the EV3, and now we are looking at the screen right now. So we do have the screen up, right, Ernest?
Yeah.
All right. So
what I'd like to do is I'd like to
familiar play sign.
we'll go back to it. So we have our green tab over here, and this one has all the moving blocks. Okay, yeah, we have all the moving blocks on that one, and the battery is low. Today is just not our day. And then we have the yellow tab over here. This is the one with the loops and the switches, these constructs that we're going to use. So what I want to do is actually I'm going to go ahead and use an infinite loop. So you can tell that it's an infinite loop because you have the infinity sign over there. Charging it? Sounds good. So we have the infinite loop over there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the yellow tab over here, which is my sensor tab. And I kind of just want to run through a quick calibration for you guys.
So, bunch of sensors over there.
If you guys have your robots at home, I would really like for you guys to do this right along with me. Go ahead and set up an infinite loop on your program, and then drag and drop the infinite sensor into the loop. And then I want you to go ahead and go into the green action tab, and I want you to pull up the display block, and I want you to place it next to the infrared sensor block. And one of the mistakes that I made last week when I was trying to show you the output from a reading is rather than picking the display, I picked the brick status light. So every time I got an output, the brick status light would light up, but that's kind of useless because it doesn't light up in numbers. So
the infrared, is that the ultrasonic?
The infrared is also the ultrasonic sensor. That's how they have it named on the EV3 program. So I'd like for you guys to go into this top yellow, this white region.
Colorblind?
Not colorblind. This white region on the top of the green block, and I want you to pick wired. I want you to go ahead and pick text and grid. Go ahead and pick wired, and there will be a little text block right there. So then the sensor should be set on channel 1, and it should measure proximity. So all you have is it measuring proximity, and basically that's measuring the value of how far the robot is. And I want you to plug that into the little text block, and I want you to go in and check the port number that you are connected to. So our infrared ultrasonic sensor was connected to port 1. So we'll connect that to port 1, and then all we have to do is just run the program. And if you run the program and you take a look at your screen, you'll have a number on there. So 1023 is the value that it gives you when it's extremely far from something or really close to something. So that's the value that you disregard. But if you go ahead and put your hand there for me, in fact, let's put the robot over here.
So now it's going to tell me a distance of how far my arm is?
In ultrasonic reading. So put your hand over here, in fact.
It's right here.
Okay, so the value that it's giving me is about 137. So let's just say that my robot is on the field and I want it to only get as close as it was to a fax hand at the moment, 137. So as an engineer or as a coder or as a designer of this robot, what I would do is I would write down the value of 137. And then we go back to the drawing board. So what I said is that we wanted our robot to run a certain distance until it got to that proximity of a fax hand. So what we'll do is rather than having the loop run infinitely, we'll have it run based upon touch sensor. Sorry. Infrared. And we're going to use the proximity. And we're going to say that we want the robot to stop when it gets less than, right, 137.
So it's going to stop when it gets to 137?
Yes, sir. So until it gets to 137, it is going to go forward. So we set our motors A and D, and we'll start the robot back here.
Let's put it on for 5 seconds.
It'll just be on. Well, it's not. It's not
okay,
on for a
so
number of
it's just gonna
seconds.
be on.
It's on basically based upon the proximity reading on our robot. Let's download it into the robot. And take it.
Or go back to the live session. Put my hand right here, so it should stop somewhere around here, right?
It should stop about the same distance that it did before.
If it runs.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you play the right program, please? Is everything right with that?
Let me see for a moment. I think it might have been greater.
Was that a mistake?
Oh, I know what my mistake was. The port that I had set on the loop was port 4. It should be port 1.
These little things is what can make people go crazy.
Yeah, if you ever do get the opportunity to code something, if you get to sit down and play with a coding language such as C++ or MATLAB, sometimes you'll have little bugs that are just a comma that's missing.
Now you have a greater than. Is it supposed to be greater than or less than?
Well, here's what we do if we want to check that. We can go ahead and run our calibration program. So we'll just go ahead and we'll X out of this for a moment, right? We'll delete this program. And we will go back to having an infinity loop. And we will stick in our infrared sensor. We'll just have it measuring proximity. we'll set it to port 1, and we will go to the action block. We'll pull up our display. The display will display text in a grid, and we will have it wired, and we will connect it over there, and we'll run it. Right, Afak?
Yeah.
So the closer the robot gets to your hand, the smaller the value gets. So that means if I want the robot to go 137 distances, anything less, which just means the robot has gotten closer, the robot should stop.
Okay. So now.
So then, knowing
go back to
that,
the screen.
we are going to delete these blocks that are in here. We are going to set a infrared sensor block based on proximity. It is going to be less than, I don't know, 137. We will set it to port 1 because that's where our infrared sensor is, and we will put in our steering block, and the robot will just be on. And again, why are we not setting it to seconds, degrees of rotation?
Stop when it sees my hand.
Exactly. The robot, the steering being on is dependent not on rotation, seconds, or degrees. It's dependent upon the reading that we get from our infrared sensor. So if you'd be so kind as you stick your hand over there, Afak.
Stick my hand anywhere you want.
Wow.
Play the program. Back it up a little.
Saying all the right things today, aren't you?
Back to robot. Look at that. Stop.
It's like magic.
If I move my hand, is it going to start again?
No.
Oh,
because it's only well, if you go ahead and take a look at the program, if we can go back, that's a really good question. But I want you to take a look at it, if I can see if you can maybe explain why it didn't keep on going.
Because it's not an infinity loop.
Exactly. What this program is saying is, if you kind of run through it, is run the motor. Oh, sorry, I was using my fingers to point on the screen. It is saying run the motor. And then it is saying check if the proximity reading is less than 100. If it is not, go back and run the motor. Check if the proximity reading is less than 100.
If it is, stop it.
If it is, then stop it. Does it stay? Run it again?
No. Can we get that happening?
Sure, we can get that to happen. So what you want the robot to do is...
One of those if loops.
Would you like to demonstrate that, Afak?
No.
So what Afak is asking for us to do is run the robot. What we can do is we can set it as an infinite loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a notion that's a little more advanced, but it's a good notion for you guys to have. It's a switch. It's a switch inside of a loop. So basically, this program is going to run infinitely, but the switch is going to check the infrared sensor, and it's going to compare the proximity. So the way this program is going to run...
Don't forget to change it to port 1 before you go crazy.
I'm going to go crazy because I'm working with you, not because of this. We're going to set it to 1. We're going to set the motors to A and D. We're going to have it just be on. And let's slow down the speed a little. I don't want our guy falling off the wall.
Let's change that to 100 also again.
It doesn't really matter. It'll only get closer and closer.
I don't want it to get closer.
Fine. And if it is, here's what we'll do. We'll have it go backwards if it is greater than 100.
So if it gets close, it's gonna go back, and oh, that's pretty sweet. Let's see if this works. It doesn't work at 5.
Well, no. If it gets close. That's a really good idea, in fact. If it gets close, it'll go backwards. Otherwise, it's going forwards.
So if it's less than 100, yeah, it will go backwards.
So would you like to read this loop for me, Fak?
Yeah, as soon as you're done doing that.
Go ahead, man. It's all on you.
One of them has to be negative power.
You're absolutely right.
That one, no.
The top one.
Yep. So basically, it's going to run the loop. If the power is less than, if the proximity is less than 100, it's going to make it go reverse, and then repeat it until the proximity is greater than 100, in which case it would make it go forward. Let's run it.
Whoa, check it out. A little bit of debugging. We forgot to set our motors up here in the top one. So let's just connect our robot. We're going to download that program that we just showed you guys, and then after that, kind of want to jump into the color and proximity sensor, do a little bit of calibration on that, and maybe run that program. How do you do this?
It's
It's the
just,
simple things.
just sticking it in. Click. Download it,
Of course.
please. And now, let's see how this goes. If this doesn't work, you're fired.
Yeah, because you signed my checks, right?
You get paid for this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought this was volunteer. Alright, let's do this. Even your hand. Oh. It's like breakdancing now.
Move your hand.
Could this be the breakdance bot?
This is the breakdance program. That's pretty cool. I hope you guys are enjoying that at home.
I don't know why this is so much fun.
So we can, if it's okay with you, in fact, I'd like to go ahead and.
This is so much fun. I don't know if it's finals week or what, but this is the most fun I've had all day.
It is finals weekend. This is one of the cooler breaks that we get to take. Stop. So now
Buzzkill. Anyway, fine, light sensors, let's get it.
I'd like to go ahead and play around with the light sensor. So
Does
we
the
can
light
just,
sensor make it breakdance too?
the light sensor could make it breakdance. I'm sure we can make the robot do anything we like.
Let's do this then.
Not making the robot breakdance. Let's connect the robot and
Go back to the screen.
so basically, anytime you play around with a sensor, you're going to want to calibrate it. So we're going to go ahead into the loop.
It's not necessary.
It is.
It's not necessary.
If I don't whistle, the program doesn't work. We're going to go ahead and stick the color sensor in there.
What if
and
someone at home can't whistle?
I hope that they can learn. Anybody can do anything.
So now they have to learn before whistle before they can program?
No, you can program without
Well,
whistling.
you
You're
just
just
said
mad.
whistling. You just said the whistling that won't work. You don't whistle.
You're just mad you can't whistle.
My whistle was louder too. Back to the screen.
I'm not going to do this right now. So basically, it's the same thing that we were doing with the calibration for the ultrasonic sensor. You put in your color sensor, and then you stick in your display. You're going to have it set up as text to grid. Up here, rather than Mindstorms, you're going to have it wired. You're going to connect it over here, and you are going to measure color. Cool?
Is it port 2?
If I am not mistaken, we have our color sensor. That's a good point, Fat. Is connected into
Port 2.
I don't know, man.
It is. There's only 2 motor sensors connected in.
It's connected to port 2. And we're just going to run infinitely. And I'm going to go ahead and run this program.
If Ernie can get us back to the screen. Again, our cameraman is Ernie today. Awesome guy. MGB.
I thought his name was Earl.
Name's
So when you stick it on anything that's black, it gives you a reading of 0. And it actually is shining these colors. I'm guessing it uses that to go ahead and read. So if I'm going to go ahead and take out a few of my cards from my wallet, and they're different colors. So I have a Chase card over here. You can't see the number. I have my NYU IDs purple. I have my Chase card that's blue, and I have a Metro card that is yellow.
None of those real solid colors though.
Well, it'll give you a basic reading on something. And on the field, you have the set colors. You have the field at home, so you can go ahead and calibrate the colors that you have. So over here, when I stick it on the yellow, it gives me a reading of 4. So I know that yellow is read as 4 on the brick. When I shine it on blue, it gives me a reading of 2. And when I shine it on purple, it gives me a value of 1. And that kind of makes sense because purple is a really dark color, and when
Black
you shine
is
it
0.
on black is 0. So,
So am I. 7.
that's a pretty loaded question.
I'm a 7. I'm a 7. Anyway.
That got racially charged real quick. So it kind of gives you an idea that the higher the color is, the lighter the color is. So I guess you're really light, and the darker the color is, yes, you are a 7.
7 out of 10.
And the darker the color is, the lower the number is. So that being said, we can go ahead and do some of the same things that we were doing with the robot before, with the ultrasonic sensor that we were with the color sensor. So if you can be so kind, in fact, as to shine it onto the table, it's giving us a reading of 1. So what I can,
the gray mat.
that's the gray mat that we have. So I'm going to say that as long as the reading is 1, the robot will run. Once the robot hits something that's black or a 0, the robot will cease to run. So in order for us to do that, we're going to have the robot run from the green mat to the black mat.
I have one question after you do this. This one goes successfully. This might be too advanced for you, but can you make the robot run if it sees the gray mat, but then stop with the ultrasonic sensor since we have both sensors connected?
Run as long as it has the gray mat, and then once it gets close with the ultrasonic sensor, it stops.
Yeah.
We can absolutely do that.
That was the last thing we do.
But first, we're going to run through the color sensor.
So then if you're setting it up like that, maybe we should set up so that if it sees gray, it runs, until it sees black, and then it stops.
Well, I'm going to set it up so as the calibration value that I get when it's on the gray mat effect is a 1. When I get it on the black, it's 0. So I'm going to have it run as long as the value is
not 0. It's not 0.
Is not 0. Once it's 0, it stops. And you can also have it running as long as the value is greater than 0.
Okay. Let's do this.
There's multiple ways to do this. There's more than one way to run a robot. So we're going to go ahead.
Ernie, if you get us back to the screen.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to set our loop based upon the condition of a color sensor, and we're going to have it measure color. So as long as the color is, oh wow, the way it does it over here, it doesn't do a comparison of it. Is it as long as it's 1, I guess black is also the absence of color. But anyway, I'm guessing as long as it's 1, it will run. Once it's not, it should stop.
We want it running on.
Well, let's see what happens.
Okay, so just run it with the put the movement motor in.
We'll just have it be on A and D.
Okay, so now if you can get back to the screen, just play from there. So 1 stopped. We wanted to move for more than value 1. See, it's seeing this as 1. We need to do it for greater than a value of 1. Or run while it sees 1.
How about run while it sees 0 or 1? Huh. Okay.
Display it from the screen.
You know what we'll do? I downloaded the robot on here.
The program.
Sorry.
So now it's saying nothing.
As long as the value is 0, the robot is running. Once it sees any value other than 0, it stops.
But now, again, we don't have the continuous loop, so it's not going to start again.
So, yeah, exactly that. So it's actually kind of really hard to run it over here because the difference between the gray and the black is very little. It keeps on reading the same value. At home, when you do have those tables with the lines, for the 4th workshop, we're definitely going to try to get a table with a colored line on there and try to get that to run for you guys. What was that program that you wanted us to try out, in fact?
That it runs. So let's make it run as long as it sees 0 or gray. And then it stops as soon as it gets to that 137, close to my hand.
Sure. So that's basically going to be an infinite loop with a switch.
So if we go back to our screen, Ernie. Okay. So now we got the infinite loop and the switch inside. Interesting. Loops inside of loops. And now
this is an infinite loop. So basically, it has to check. No, it's not an infinite loop.
It's a loop inside of a loop inside of it.
No. It's basically running as long as, because the final thing that's going to stop it is our infrared sensor. So as long as the proximity is greater than, is less than, I don't know, we'll set it as 10, so it gets really close to your hand. The program is going to keep
Port
on.
Port 1.
Sorry, port 1. So as long as the proximity is less than 10, the program is going to keep on running. But while it's in there, it is not going to run as long as the value it sees is not 1. So we're gonna go ahead and make the switch a color sensor, and we're going to have it compare color, and we're going to make sure that it is 0 or 1. So as long as it sees these values, it's going to run. So it sees these values, it will run, and it will be on. And if it doesn't see these values, it just won't run.
So no, you have to put 1 in, and I think you put it on off. And now over there, you turn that off. Great.
And we should set it for A and D.
And if this works, I think this is the last program for today.
So let's download that on there.
You gotta put the wire in. Download that in.
Why don't you download it in?
Focus it really funny. There's that beautiful sound. Cleat, if you will do the honors. My hand is right here. Drum roll, please. Where's my drum roll?
You're not getting a drum roll.
There we go. Thank you, Ernie. Forget what program you named it?
It's not running.
Because you broke it.
Oh, I didn't set the correct port for the light sensor. Sorry.
You ruin everything.
You ruined everything.
So real quick, just switching that port back to 2.
I don't think I installed it. It just ran it.
You just
Sorry, guys.
install that program. Good thing I get that drum roll. They gotta get tired by now.
Forget you and your drum roll. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure the robot moves by blocking the light sensor. Why isn't it running?
Do you want to double check the program?
The program is fine.
You have it running if it sees the light sensor senses 0 or 1.
The robot's not even turning on now. That's really weird.
What do you mean it's not turning on?
Well, it's not running no matter what.
Turn on all those lights?
I don't know. It might be the converse.
Let's play it first. Let's see what happens. Just block out the light sensor. Is it still on? Try now.
Let's make sure everything's plugged in.
4, 2, 4, 1. Right?
Oh, I think I know what our problem is.
What was the problem? Turn both of them on. Let's see what that does. Make them both go. One of these has to work now, right? There's definitely something wrong with the light sensor.
I hope it's not us that there's something wrong with.
I told you this might be too advanced for you when I first mentioned it.
You just wanted to embarrass me.
That was the goal.
Huh.
So why don't you just make a switch where
I made a mistake.
proximity sensor? There we go.
It was a proximity sensor all along. Put your hand there, Fred.
Look at that.
We got the program to run.
So if you wanted to go back to the screen and let them know what was wrong.
So I actually had it greater than 100, and starting off the program, it was definitely reading something greater than 100. So the program was satisfied and it didn't run. But we wanted the program to run until the value of the proximity sensor was less than 100. So that's just some debugging for you guys. So if you'd like to run it again,
just block out the light. So play that again.
sorry.
Your thumb is in the way. Let's get real close now.
It gets really close. But basically, the basic premise of the program is that if it reads a value of 0, it will
Run.
It will not run. That's what we have on the top.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing when we block it out with our fingers, it's reading something other than 0. So it runs, and then once it hits proximity of less than 10, it stops running. So this is just something that we were kind of noodling around with. It was an idea that FAC had in the middle of our video. We hope this is giving you a better idea of how these and a better understanding of how these sensors work. And we will be back on
January. In January, actually, we're going to be going over, now that we basically built 2 different types of robots, we showed you sensors, we showed you how to do programming. In January, we'll have some of the kits set up from the actual FLL competition. Maybe put them on the table and go over some strategies to go around them.
Yeah, and I promise we're gonna have that line on the table so our robot can do a line follow. I'm sure that a lot of you guys have done a line follow before and that you guys are familiar with it. But I'd like to just give you guys some of the technique and some of the ideas that we have on how to do it.
Well, once again, my name's Afak.
I'm Khalid, and it's been our pleasure.